The following match was a 8-man tag match with the Dark Order, Mr. Brody Lee, Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, and I forgot who the fourth one is. One of their dudes. Anyway, against the Natural Nightmares, QT, Dud Marshall, and Dustin Rhodes, as well as Matt Cardona, rest in peace, Zack Ryder, and Scorpio Sky. Now, very interesting combination. Obviously, all closely associated with the Prince of Pro Wrestling, Cody Rhodes, who is yet to be heard of or yet to be seen since his loss to Brody Lee. But yeah, obviously Dustin and QT had to get their revenge. They're part of the Nightmare family. Matt Cardona is his best friend. Scorpio Sky is the interesting one for me. He's undefeated in his last 7 singles contests. If I'm honest, I don't know how far that streak stretches back, but he's been part of it, SCU for as long as I can remember. And so might be his all-time singles record, but I like the fact he's getting a bit of a push for this. He is one of the best pure athletes, as they said on commentary in AEW. I mean, they have a lot of pure athletes in there, but this fella is one of the best of them all. He elevates quickly. He flies around. He's got such speed and acceleration, and he's just really great in the ring. I'm unsure what he's like on promos. Obviously, SCU had a good mouthpiece in Christopher Daniels with them for a while, but it seems like he's split away from them and is vying for the TNT Championship. So that's really interesting. A little moment in the entrance that I really wanted to point out was as the Dark Order came out, Colt Cabana was in the back doing his usual shtick. And however, what happened after that was Evil Uno was on the right-hand side of Mr. Brody Lee, but Mr. Brody Lee shoved him out of the way as sort of put Colt in his right-hand man position. So that's been played out for a really long time lately. Obviously, Grayson and Uno are showing a bit of jealousy towards Colt Cabana and the favoritism that Mr. Brody Lee's showing him. And I think Colt's sort of also playing it up a little bit. He changed his ring tights tonight from being a nice bright fluorescent colors to being gray, purple, and black, the same colors as the Dark Order. So, little things like that really add to the what is it? I guess just the overall storyline and the disharmony within the Dark Order. I've mentioned previously how big they are as a group. There's got to be some dysfunction in there in some way. So, there was even a moment during the match when, what was it? I think Evil Uno was going to put his boot up in the corner and Stu Grayson was going to throw Cardona into the side, into the boot, but Colt Cabana pushed it off, and that's led to Grayson and Evil Uno sort of berating Colt Cabana a little bit. So, the disharmony was being built throughout the match, and it was really kind of odd for me if they're trying to build up Scorpio Sky. He sat out for a really long time at the match. He was just on the sidelines. If anything, I don't really know how much time he saw in the ring. He was really underutilized. I was waiting for him to come in with a late flurry and sort of win the match for the team, establishing his push and everything like that. But it never really came. A bit of a weird booking idea. I mean, it's probably a bit difficult to have anything other than Dustin get the win or anything like that, or QT get the win because, they're so closely related to Cody and they want to get the victory. I mean, in the end, it really came down to quite an interesting moment. Basically, Brody Lee laid out Dustin Rhodes with a huge discus clothesline and, does what he always is and says, Colt, this one's for you. Let's keep your good roll going. And basically tagged out to Colt Cabana, having already done the damage. And Colt could have gone for the pin, but for some stupid reason went out there and tried to nail a shooting star press and got rolled up by Dustin Rhodes for the win. It was quite a quick finish. I wasn't expecting something like that. I was expecting a bit more viciousness from each side, or a bit maybe of a dirty finish and Dark Order just snapping and just attacking everyone at once and just sort of getting DQ'd. So seeing Dustin get the roll up here on Colt Cabana was quite an interesting thing. And that led to some post-match semantics from the Dark Order, which sort of was a bit bizarre, Mr. Brody Lee started just ripping into Colt Cabana audibly through the hot mics and everything, which, is what he's supposed to do. Really just tearing him up and just berating him for a really long time. Eventually it left, he told the Dark Order, let's piss off out of here, like we're done here. And everyone followed except for Evil Uno. And had that moment of thinking, is Uno going to smash Colt for Brody Lee, like behind Brody Lee's back. Like, what's going to happen here? Because that tension, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, has been building from the very start of Colt joining up with Mr. Brody Lee. However, Evil Uno sort of stuck out a hand and helped him up and gave him some words of encouragement, as if, don't worry, dog, I've been there before. I've been yelled at by this guy. I know it sucks, but, together we can either live through it and persevere, or we can, be the lesser man and not show what we're really made of. So I think, I reckon next week's episode of Dynamite, it's going to be quite interesting to see if maybe Evil Uno and Colt Cabana tag together. That'd be really interesting. Two very similarly built gentlemen together. A bit on the portly side, but that's okay. They both float like butterflies and sting like bees, so that's a-okay. And after the match, it was announced that Dustin, the 32-year-old veteran, is going to get a TNT title shot against Mr. Brody Lee on next week's episode of AEW Dynamite. Predictions for that one, Brody Lee's going to absolutely destroy him. It's going to be painful to watching this old man get beaten up. But hey, good on him for taking it and, fighting for his brother and everything like that. I'd expect nothing less from a proud man like Dustin Rhodes, but if I'm honest, I don't see him even putting up much of the fight. I think it's going to be quite reminiscent of the match against Cody, an absolute just demolition of Dustin. I do think Scorpio Sky has more cards to play in this hand. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with him moving forward. Again, didn't see much time in the ring, which was quite shocking. Like I said, I thought he was going to come through and be the saving grace for this team and sort of push them over the edge. But yeah, and in the end, he hardly saw much ring time and didn't really win the match for the team. But, again, I'm not a booker or a writer for this, so they know what they're doing, and I trust them wholeheartedly. I've just got myself a fresh beverage just because I'm going into the biggest 3 matches of the All Out pay-per-view, the main events. I mean, not really the main events, there's only one main event, but the 3 most hyped matches. The first one match, again, I was really looking forward to, just for super talented professional wrestlers. I think there's, no matter where you put these guys, whether it be in a gym in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, or if you put them in Staples Center with like 60,000 people screaming their lungs out, they would put on a show that you remember. So I had no doubt in my brain Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page doing cowboy shit versus FTR with Tully Blanchard was going to be just a stellar match, and it absolutely was. The big questions going into it obviously were, would Kenny turn, or would the turn be complete? I personally think he's been turning slowly over the last couple of weeks, and it was a very emotional match from the start. In the very early goings, Kenny started the match, but as soon as they were about to collar and elbow tie up, Hangman was like, "Nah, dog, give it to me. I want in on these people." And there were stages where, Kenny had to pull Hangman off of FTR, which, again, shows to the emotional nature of this match. FTR as well have their own emotions going into this match. They came to AEW to be the tag team champions. They've fought to be the world tag team champions. They've been tag champs in other promotions before, but they've never been the AEW tag champs. And so that was the emotion coming in for them. And this match was really, really strong. Probably not a 5-star match, as Meltzer likes to say, or anything like that, but it was a bit of a slow build-up for it. A lot of slow pace to begin the match, which, it's not surprising. Obviously, there were going to be some massive spots throughout the match. We knew it was going to pick up the pace near the end, and really just some incredible moments in it. Just watching FTR work as a tag team really is something else. They're absolute technicians in the ring. Their moveset is just old school, brutal, punch you in the face, kick you in the teeth, stomp you in the chest, pile drive you, like just brutal moves. And obviously, Kenny and Hangman have their own styles, which the commentary team always bring up as being, they're just 2 individuals who came together and whatnot. And it really sort of, they hand that up a fair bit throughout the match. And Kenny got his FTR worked on Kenny's knee throughout the match, obviously taking away the vertical base and the speed and agility of Kenny Omega, which he obviously has in spades. But did they really wait to if you've seen it, or if you know what's really what, that it's just what it is. They needed something to focus on and really drag him down. But yeah, it was a really, really interesting. Dax nailed the inverted figure four, which made Chucky T tap out last week. Kenny dragged himself to the rope, and it was really, really interesting finish to the match. I was thinking something like the Young Bucks might get involved, or just something would happen. And in the end, it ended with Kenny hitting a V trigger accidentally on Hangman Adam Page. So Kenny's fault in that sense, in terms of the story. Kenny made the mistake. He V-triggered Adam Page, not Adam Page hitting a buckshot or punching or doing anything like that to Kenny. It was Kenny who nailed him. And in the end, FTR nailed a spike pile driver or an assisted pile driver, and then their finishing move to actually pin Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega for the World Tag Team titles. So good on FTR for getting their straps. I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I expect them to have another long reign akin to that of Omega and Page, something over 200 days. There's just, as good as the tag team division is and as deep as it is, I can't see anyone knocking them off. Again, FTR versus the Young Bucks is probably the match that every fan is clamoring for, but I can't see the Young Bucks getting over FTR in that match. The match itself will be something crazy, but I can't see them getting over in that match. And just having them as the tag champs, I think, is a really, really strong move from the organization. Shows that they believe in talent and that they want to have a tag team holding the tag team belts. And after the match, Kenny picked up the announcer's table. It looked like for a second there he was going to go full cleaner mode and just take out Adam Page with the table. Part of me, I'll be honest, was hoping that it would. I love Cowboy doing cowboy shit, but Kenny's character in that part of the tag team is just a bit naff in my eyes. A bit too video gaming kitsch for me personally. I know other people love him and love everything he does, and don't get me wrong, I love what he does. He is a wizard in the ring, like an absolute goddamn wizard. But his character's just a bit stale. So seeing him go into that full cleaner mode, I would have been a big fan of that, just ruthlessly taking out anybody and everybody on the AEW roster, proving that he is the fucking man and he is unstoppable. But yeah, he was going to hit him with the table, but sort of just, talked himself out of it. They've got a bit of a history together, being in the Elite, although Hangman's kicked out. They got a bit of a friendship, 200 days. They've bonded at times. They've broken up at times. They've bonded again, rekindled the love. But in the end, he sort of just, Hangman went to go get a hand up from him, and Kenny just didn't help him and let Hangman fall flat on his face and just walked out on him. I think that probably means the end of Hangman and Omega as a tag team, especially considering after the match, Kenny stormed through the back, ran into the Young Bucks, and pretty much implored them to leave with him. Pretty much forget Adam Page. He's in the Elite. Like, why bother with? He's not in the Elite anymore. Why bother with him? Let's get out of here. We got our own stuff to do. We got our own parties to go to and whatnot after the match. Partying after a match like that, goddamn right? No chance. Especially Kenny, he's straight edge as hell. But it was kind of bizarre to see. Obviously, Kenny's the stronger individual wrestler in the Elite, but seeing him, demand that the Bucks come with him and leave the arena after the match, and them not actually do it, kind of weirded me out a little bit. Sort of, you'd think that after their heel antics in their tag match against Jurassic Express, that they would have just gone, fuck yeah, dog, let's get out of here. We don't need this nobody with us. Let's ride or die with the Elite. But, or even, the polar opposite. Kenny come back and look at these guys. What are you doing turning my partner against me? And decking them and breaking up the Elite completely, just blowing it all up, Either one of those would have been really an interesting angle to take. But having Kenny take a commanding role and demand that they leave with him, to me just felt a bit weird. He's not, it's difficult to see him or any of them, actually, the Young Bucks and Kenny, being this aggressive, demanding character. But seeing Kenny pull that off and the Bucks not go with him was a bit bizarre. I don't quite get the point behind that, because it sort of goes against what the Bucks were doing earlier, And if they're fully going that way, why not just make them piss off with Kenny? There's no need for them to be there. They've already had their match. They're in jeans and still without shirts and stuff. But what do they got to do but not hang around and just go do what they want to do, or for the storyline? So yeah, a bit of a weird ending. I think down the line, obviously, if this is the end for Omega and Page, they're obviously going to battle each other for supremacy probably over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be interesting to see what happens on Dynamite between these two, whether or not Kenny comes out and addresses the crowd, or if Cowboy comes out and addresses the crowd. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're completely dissolved or not. Left ambiguous, but pretty obvious that it is dissolved in terms of Kenny just walking out. It may have been frustration. They might be trying to put it off as frustration or whatever, but doesn't look like it. It looks like Hangman and Kenny Omega is Dunsky, which I, for one, am pretty glad about. I want to see Kenny go on a singles run. I want to see him challenge for the world title. I want to see him put in some just stellar matches like I know he can. I want to see Hangman go back to being his cowboy, his lone wolf, his lone ranger sort of gimmick, and just not really being a sad millennial cowboy as they're calling him. Like he's young, he's 28, or 29 or whatever, but he still pulls that cowboy shit, and he's great at that character. I think he has a real Stone Cold Steve Austin outlaw element to his gimmick, the same way Stone Cold did. I think the crowd's always going to cheer for Cowboy regardless of what he's doing or where he is in the promotion. So I think they need to start using him a little better, and I think he's better used as a singles wrestler than as a tag team competitor. But that's just my humble opinion. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens on Dynamite this week. A little side note on that: Kip Sabian pulled a little promo during All Out and said he's going to announce his best man for his wedding to Penelope Ford, because they're getting married apparently very soon, probably in a couple of weeks on Dynamite. And he's going to reveal who his best man is on this week's episode of Dynamite. I don't know if it's going to be someone already within the company or if they're going to bring someone in. Now, just an outside suspicion, there's been the Thunder Rosa NWA crossover, which big fan of, worked really well for NWA and EW. Why not get someone like Nick Aldis? Nick Aldis to be the best man. Both British. He's needs to be the best man, is what Kip Sabian referenced. And, Aldis is the NWA champion. Just saying. That's one of the best outside of AEW. So, yeah, keep your eyes peeled on that. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with who the best man actually is. I mean, Kip is what it is, obviously. I don't really fuck with him too much. He's a bit weird. But, whatever. If his best man revelation's going to be something awesome, then I look forward to seeing that. Hopefully it's a someone worth the hype, because he managed to interrupt a pay-per-view for his promo. So, it is what it is. Now, the second to last match on the All Out card, bit weird that it was after the tag team title match. I mean, I get Jericho deserves being close to the main event if he's not in the main event, but this is 4 goddamn superstars vying for a tag team title. Like, honestly, I think this should have probably gone before the tag team title match, but Y2J versus Orange Cassidy in the trilogy match in a Mimosa Mayhem, which I was wondering what the ring would look like and how they'd set it up. I was thinking that, the whole ring area, the apron area the floor area along the crowd sides of the ring would be filled with vats of mimosa. But they were just 2 circular things on platforms, which was okay. I think it was still effective enough, and a really novel match idea created by the great man Y2J. There's quite a lot of people I've seen recently, or in just, I'm watching this match after, I'm watching All Out after it's happened. And a lot of the talk that I've seen about it was that this match went for too long. And remember Sammy and Matt's match got cut short, so there was time to kill. And why not let these two go and have some fun? And yeah, I mean, it's a fun match, with a pull through on the side of the ring. You knew someone was going to get thrown in it, even though they said it was through pinfall, submission, and whatever. You knew someone was going to end up in the pool of mimosa. It was just a matter of who it would be, whether it would be Orange Cassidy or Chris Jericho. And I mean, this feud's been going on for 14 weeks. It's over 3 months worth. All started because Cassidy walked into the back of one of Jericho's promos. And I mean, I think it's been really beneficial for both of them. Obviously, Chris Jericho's developing a bit of a reputation as a star maker, which is fair enough. He's one of the GOATs. So having him going against him in any match in any capacity is always going to give a bit of a rub to any superstar or any wrestler. So seeing him versus Orange Cassidy for three times in a 14-week-long feud. This is a really, really big rub for Orange Cassidy. I really think he has a bright future in AEW. Again, I do think he's a little far off being a champion, but I imagine him to contend for a long, long time in the future. Maybe in a few years' time he could win the title, but until then, it's just he's a bit far away. And I mean, it's probably about time this feud finished as well. 14 weeks is a very long time of interaction between the two of them. Obviously, they had the debate, which was kind of funny. And then, Jericho won the first match. Cassidy won the second one. Both stellar matches. But, yeah, they needed a tiebreaker. So I guess hopefully this is the end of the feud. And I guess you could consider it the end of the feud when you finally get dunked in Mimosa. I wouldn't want to fight the guy that dunks me in Mimosa either. But, in the end, it was freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy who got the victory. Man punches while Jericho was on the outside of the ring, and Jericho just completely starfished into the Mimosa. And having now knowing that Orange Cassidy wins, what a rub for that young man. Even if he lost, it would be a great rub for him. He's obviously moved from being a sectional mid-card talent to being one of the upper-level stars. I don't think he's going to be seen with best friends much anymore. I think they might have some subtle interactions in the end, but he's elevated himself to being in the top tier of this company due to this match. And I mean, full credit to Jericho for helping him out and doing this story with him. Shows the willingness and the talent spotting of Chris Jericho to be able to notice, yeah, this boy's got some talent. Let's give him a good program with me and see what happens. And the crowd absolutely live for this kid. He's just such a captivating young man for who does very little, or says very little and does very little. But it wasn't that surprising that he won the match. As soon it was announced. It was announced as a gimmick match. You had the hunch that Cassidy was going to win just because, Jericho won the first one. Yes, Cassidy won the second one. But, Jericho doesn't need to win the third one to elevate himself or anything like that. And he's not in the position in the company either to need to be elevated. So in my mind, I always sort of had a hunch Cassidy would win the match, and I'm not shocked that he did. I'm glad that he did. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be great. But yeah, it wasn't so much of a shock as what I thought it would be once it was announced as a Mimosa Mayhem match. I mean, who did you think was going to end up in the shot for, in the pool? Would it be Cassidy or Jericho? And if you stop and think about it for a second, it is always going to be Jericho landing in that pool. So, yeah, that was the second to last match. And then we had the main event. Jon Moxley versus Maxwell Jacob Friedman. And Moxley is not allowed to use the Paradigm Shift DDT. God damn, I love MJF. God damn it. He is just everything he does, from his ring attire to his interactions with the crowd to the way he sells every move. Like, he's 24 years old, but oh my God, he is just, how much he makes me hate him is how much I love him. And it's quite something else. And, it was a really, really physical match. It started off with MJF avoiding going outside of the ring where, Moxley has his strength and is stronger than MJF, and sort of focusing on the wrestling. Really working the left arm over of Jon Moxley, making it so he can't do some of his power moves, which was quite effective and smart tactical wrestling. Like MJF has said over and over and over again, he's a better wrestler than Jon Moxley. He might not be a better brawler, but they're wrestling. And sure enough, as soon as it spilled outside, Jon Moxley hit MJF with sort of this just little, not a springboard, just a little, he threw him up into the ring post. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, yes, MJF's going to bleed. Finally, he needs to bleed, and it was quite a good moment. He came up from being hit in the ring post. There he is, sure enough, with the crimson mask. Wasn't obviously a deep blade job, just needed to get the message across. And it was good to see. You knew at one stage or another he was going to bleed. He's just such a little asshole. Everyone wants to see him bleed, so why not give the people what they want, I really enjoyed it. I thought it really helped push the storyline along. It was it was quite interesting. After a while, the bleeding stopped and the blood sort of dried up on his face and got wiped off, obviously, with the sweat and wiping their arms and everything like that. And then Mox and him had a bit of a flurry together. And sure enough, the cut got busted back open, which I don't know if that was planned or not, but I thought it was really cool to see him start bleeding again. It was really good just to see him bleed for as long as he did. I'm a big fan of heels bleeding, if you haven't noticed. It was MJF really, really had a great showing in here. He threw everything he had at Moxley. He really did. And I was expecting a good match because I know they can both go in the ring. But yeah, and it was a really fantastic match. Really went for a long time as well, which told a story. There were great moments throughout it, Moxley's in MJF's face. MJF just spits on him. Perfect storytelling. And then later, they're on their knees, absolutely exhausted from fighting for 20 minutes, and they're just throwing haymakers at each other. And Moxley just shakes off the one from MJF and drops him with a right hand. MJF comes back with a right hand. Moxley shakes it off again. Really great storytelling throughout this match. And in the end, it finished with Wardlow making a huge mistake. He went to chuck the diamond ring that Maxwell Jacob Friedman likes to wear and, knock people out with. And he overthrew it. And MJF's feeling around for the ring, feeling for it. Oh, my God. And the referee's trying to get Wardlow off the apron of the ring. And sure enough, Mox, being the sneaky bastard that he is, hits the paradigm shift and pins him 1, 2, 3 to retain his AEW World Championship. Interesting decision. I know I've mentioned leaning both ways, seeing Mox continue as champion and seeing MJF win and become the champion. During the match, I will say this, I was rooting for MJF. I just want to see that arsehole be champion and just see how much more of an arsehole he can become, because he is an absolute technician in all promo work and even in the ring. And so watching him become an even bigger arsehole, I think, would be a really great thing for the company. Have a real big uber heel that everyone can just fucking hate. But alas, it was not the case. I mean, it does open up a few avenues for his story going forward with Wardlow. Is Wardlow going to beg for forgiveness, or is MJF just going to totally wail on him for costing him the championship when he could have won? Really interesting. I hope they do break Wardlow and MJF up, and Wardlow goes on a bit of a tear, because that dude has the best delts and the best shoulders I've seen in wrestling, and I think he is just a behemoth who can just, again, let's MJF play that cowardly heel again, which he's obviously been so good at in the last few weeks with this feud with John Moxley. I don't see him getting another title shot anytime soon. Everyone seems to be one and done with the chances against Moxley. Whether, he's got to face Lance Archer sometime in the future for the World Championship, and that's going to be a hectic match too. Mox is going to have to pull some shit out of his ass to beat Archer, and I don't know what they're going to do with this or how they're going to play it out, because like I mentioned earlier, Archer winning would be great and all that, but yeah, it's just a bit of a weird storyline to play out from here. I mean, they're both sort of unhinged, so I guess they could have a bit of a Psychos brawl, Psychos feud, but I don't know. I don't really see why Archer gets the next shot no matter what, considering he lost to Cody. Where does that put Cody in the ranks? I know he can never challenge for a world title and all that, but it just a bit of a, I don't know. It'll probably all play out more in the next episode of Dynamite. I'm sure there'll be a promo from MJF and a promo from Moxley or something like that. But yeah, unless Archer comes in and hurts Moxley to the point where he can't, where he has to take time off and stuff like that, and then a bit of a revenge match. I mean, that's an obvious storyline that they could play. It's just a bit of an interesting direction that they went for. But overall, I think a very good show. A lot of professional wrestlers had great showings throughout it. A lot of them got to showcase their talent. The highlights for me were definitely um, Hangman Omega and STR, and Omega becoming a bit of a dick. The MJF Moxley match was a great emotional match that told a lot of story. Same with Y2J and Cassidy. But for me, the match of the night was without a doubt Sheeta and Thunder Rosa. Those two just tore it down. Absolutely tore it down. If you haven't seen that match, I highly, highly recommend you go see what it's all about. I look forward to catching up with you all next after the episode of Dynamite on Wednesday. Once again, shout out to my boy Roscoe McGlashan doing the editing and all the behind the scenes on this stuff. I absolutely adore you. Thank you for the great work you do. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure.